talk about the Trump releases, go into detail. But before we go into the details of the Trump releases, UAP release, we are talking about who governs us and why and how, because this is really connected to the Trump releases. So this is kind of wild. So if you're not in conspiracy series, you better watch CNN, BBC, or whatever. This is not the video for you. So let's start with YouTube. So a lot of people, or a lot of content creators in the UFO community with middle-sized channels, I would say like 10K and 100K up, suffer from new rules that were released from YouTube, and how their content is spread. A lot of content creators are complaining about that their content is not more spread to the viewers, so they struggle with views, and they start broadcasting on other platforms. They stop broadcasting on YouTube, and I know some German channels who stop broadcasting on YouTube, and some US channels. So there's kind of a problem. So before I started to record this video, I tried to figure out what really changed, and it's kind of difficult. The rules were tightened towards AI content and towards reaction videos, and if you produce reaction videos, it's totally fine. So it's not my thing, actually. Let me change it. Okay. It's not my thing I would do, but a lot of people react to whatever happens in the UFO community. They broadcast third-party content, and that's the rules there are tightening up, so they got more problems to create content in reaction videos. So you might have realized that I said about 1/3 of my videos to private. If you remember, before we start showing faces, we used an AI character to present the show, and this is actually not allowed from my understanding, and that's kind of a problem with the rules. If you go and read the rules, they can mean nothing and everything, so it's so blurry. Maybe you need to be a lawyer or in some profession like that to understand that, but for me it's I don't get it. So I still don't know what's allowed, what's not. So I put about 1/3 of my videos to private, because if you got accused, or if your channel is is mentioned, or within the rules, within the new rules, you get away from monetization, or your channel is completely shut down. So I don't know. I used AI in the past, and it's allowed for illustrations, and but it's not allowed to reproduce content, to voiceover. AI voiceover is no longer allowed, from my understanding. So I understand why people changing platforms. So I think it's sad, because there were some good content creators beneath it. So yeah, it's a loss, I would say. So with my channel, it's kind of funny. I stuck with subscriptions and with views. So my content is spread like for 10 minutes, and then YouTube stops spreading my content, or maybe 20 minutes, and YouTube stops spreading my content. And that's the same the same experience had the other YouTubers, and they were saying, okay, it's because we are doing UAP and it's kind of sensitive, and they stop spreading our videos because it's kind of disinformation or conspiracy theories and stuff like that. I think it's not like that. It's like either you have a good channel, or you are accepted by viewers, or you suck. So I think that's a problem, and YouTube realizes who is watching your videos and how long. I don't know what's a good view is, how many people should stay until the end of a video. I have no comparison for that, so I cannot tell if my content is okay or not. I think my biggest handicap is the lack of good English. So I decided to speak in English, or to contribute content in English, because I'm original, or from Germany. So, and I decided to produce content in English because in Germany the UFO community is growing and growing, and it's getting bigger, and but I think, to be honest, I grew up with news who ridiculed this topic in Germany, and if still today, if there are news people out in the media who present news about new UAPs or UFOs, it's always with a smile, It's but it becomes more serious, I have to admit, but I will stay in English even if it sucks. And for me, it's a pain in the ass, to create content in English. But I started, and I will not stop it, and I will not start producing content in German. So this is why or you have to listen to poor English on my channel. So if you can leave this aside, you will know if you're watching my channel more frequently. You will realize that a lot of the results I present on my channel are generated in over 2 decades of UAP research and remote viewing. I know there are a lot of remote viewers out there, and I tell you, there is for me, there are only a few who are able to do it, and a lot of bullshit. There's a lot of BS out there regarding remote viewing, and there is a lot of BS spread. For example, if people start talking about the Galactic Federation, there is no such thing like the Galactic Federation. That's total crap. So for me, it's total crap. So at the end, it's a kind of belief. If you trust the viewer or if you don't trust the viewer, and that's the essence of it all. So I think I don't have that many subscribers on YouTube because my first of all of my English, and this is I'm polarizing. I'm not talking about how it would be if we all would live in unicorn countries and rainbow colors and stuff like that. I name stuff, and I'm pretty serious about it. And I know that the truth sometimes in the community hurts. I lost a lot of viewers about my opinion on 3i Atlas or the Boogosphere and stuff like that. And because, yeah, I don't think it's made of an intelligence and an extraterrestrial intelligence. So I think this is one reason why I don't have this much or this many subscribers or followers on my channel. Before we got to the Trump release, I want to talk about, and this is something I really have to choose my words wisely. And that's even harder for me to express this in English. Who governs us? So before we come to that point, today we have to go back in history to understand who governs us. When you were in elementary school and you learn about religion, you learn that there is an Old Testament and a New Testament, but you never learn that the Old Testament is actually a copy of the creation myth of the Sumerian or Babylonian creation myth, the Enuma Elish. So you have similar stories and similar main characters in the creation myth of of the Babylonian and Sumerian creation myths as you have in the Old Testament. So the Old Testament is pretty much a copy of the creation myth of Sumer. It's not one-to-one, one-on-one. It has been changed to a monotheism, from a polytheism to a monotheism. That means one God policy, and the Sumerians had a lot of gods and goddesses, and they were, they were not like we see gods, like a being not materialized far in the sky or within us. Gods back then were people who walk among humans. So they pretty much were physical bodies, human-like, who were walking under beneath humans. So when it came to monotheism, from the 10 Commandments, you shall have one God, and this is the Old Testament is talking about the Elohim, and Elohim is not a singular; it's a plural. So Elohim probably were human-like beings who looked like humans, and they were walking beneath humans, and they have some kind of appearance that what made them like what made them godlike. For example, blue eyes, maybe a tall body, and when the Jews were talking about the one and only God, they were talking about someone who governed. I think that's a good explanation. Who governed about over a certain area in the Middle East and Mediterranean, and there were probably many more Elohim, people who were like humans and with special physical features, and they were I would say in a conflict or in a war, and they said, our governor, not our God, our governor. I think it's a good expression for it, but it's not accurate. So it's not a governor like we know it, but I just want to explain that the Mediterranean and Middle East area was subdivided in certain areas, and every area, like state, had an own governor. So they said, our governor is the only one we can trust and we follow. So that was the Elohim. And if you look back in this area at 1170, I think it was 1170, we see a collapse of many civilizations in this area, and there were states were like dying or eliminated. And yes, the Elohim of the Jews was there and was the one left over. I made some videos about the topic, where the Elohim went to different places on Earth, like Mesoamerica and Asia and different places. And I think the Jewish governor was stayed there, and he was ruling the area. So, and from this governor is probably, or from this, yeah, from this system, there are probably like less than 20 clans or families today left over. And I'm pretty convinced about that these are the people who define our politics. They don't rule the world like rulers. It's themselves, but they pretty much define how our world is created. So we have less, as I was saying, less than maybe 20 families. Let's call it families. Less than 20 families from this time, and I don't mention any name, or no, I won't mention any name. So you have to think about, and you probably come up with some names. There are some names, and I think their wealth is beyond everything you can imagine, and their influence on politics is beyond everything you can imagine. They can buy almost everything and everyone. And I think the reason why we don't have a full disclosure is because we would realize how our political system in Asia, in Europe, and in the United States, Northern America and Southern American, is run by people who are not fully human. I would describe it like that. They look human, and they behave like human, but they originated from a root that goes back to the Sumerian, maybe to the Sumerian time. I told you it's totally conspiracy, and we are on a level from 1 to 10. We are on 11. So I told you that, and I warned you. That was a disclaimer at the beginning, and I'm pretty convinced about that. I won't name any organization or family here because yeah, my head tells me not to do this, not to get in trouble. And this has pretty much to do with the UAP Trump releases, why they are, it came right now. It's no coincidence that the Trump release is, I think we can expect them within the next 2 or 3 weeks. And Yeah. This is who governs us. So, and how do they govern us? There are certain organizations worldwide. In particular, there is one organization. Um, I I must admit I hate it. So even hate is not strong enough for my feelings on this organization, and I won't name it. And let me describe what they do. Um, they say they educate new political leaders, and they implement them in Western and Oceanic and Australian governments to uh, to create an agenda that is quite is all what is always the same worldwide. So we have the agenda of climate change, for example. We have the agenda of the sea vaccine, and we have an upcoming event. I'm going to talk about. I don't know what will happen to this video, even if I don't say any names or stuff like that, and we will see what happens. So, what is they started implementing a new system right after 1945, after World War II. They start implementing a new system, and it was without any political opinion. It was left-weighted. Like they put people. It's called Frankfurter School, Frankfurt School. You can look it up, and they are left-wingers who created the spirit of the European community, and I think it's in the late 50s and 60s that idea sparked over to the United States, and they had different movements there. And today, you know, the world is divided like never before. We got a minimum of two different teams. Let's call them teams who hate each other. It's in Europe. It's in the United States. If you think back, when was hate between liberals and Democrats and Republicans so dense like it is now? I think it was back in when the Civil War started. The same in Europe, in Germany. People are so torn apart. Society is so torn apart like it has never been before, and I think it's part of the agenda. We have countries flooded with people, let me say, people who are not, yeah, who doesn't fit into the system, and they bring a lot of chaos and riots on the street. And if you think back like 20 years ago, if you ever thought you would have such riots in on the street, Americans against Americans. And even if I see or if I look up social media, And if you love Trump or hate him or whatever, um, I've never seen so much hate against one person. They call to kill him. They call Republicans, they call Democrats and liberals to kill Republican leaders. And I have never experienced and have never thought when I was like in my 20s that this would ever happen, that a nation is against their own people. So you can have different opinions in politics, or back then there were always different opinions, and but it never went so far that they wanted to kill persons or representatives of this certain politics. So this is something that occurred within the last years, and it's kind of new, and it's not going down, it's going more intense than ever. So Western civilization is looking forward to is facing huge challenges in society, and to calm down people, to unify people. At the end, they're all Americans. So and at the end, there are all Europeans or Germans, and at the very end, they're all humans and should stay together. But what happens right now is we are torn apart. So, and it's very sad to see how humanity is going down, if you ask me. So I wish we could have more humanity back in every Western society, but I think this is something that's wanted by the people who governs us and the organizations that are used to do it. It's because the people who govern us, you never have seen them or barely have heard of them. You don't know faces, names, and they're always behind in the shadow, and they send other organizations, other people to the front, very wealthy and very powerful organizations and very powerful and wealthy individuals. And one organization is like they have a very colorful circle as a symbol. I won't tell the name. You probably know what I'm talking about. And they implemented leaders into parliaments worldwide, and you can have a look at statistics. And if you look up the statistics since the late 90s, early 2000s, if you look the crime statistics, you can see society is more and more unstable. I would explain it or express it like that. It's more and more unstable compared to 30 years back or 40 years back. So today we are on a peak, and I don't think we have reached a peak yet. It's coming, and we will see more violence on the street, and we get used to it. The human mind, the human mindset is something that is very easy to get used to, even very bad stuff. If you see people, if you hear the same news every day about people getting murdered or stabbed or whatever, at one point it became the normal thing, and that shouldn't be a normal thing. But humans are programmed to take it as normal. As imagine someone who is like 17 or 18 now, and he was growing up with all these problems and this instability. A lot of people struggling with money and living on the edge financially, and can't afford a lot of things. So society, I think society is going downhill, and quite fast. So a lot of Western civilizations are facing huge challenges to keep peace in their country. But I think this is wanted, because if you destabilize a country, and then you can implement new tools to rule them. Think back when to the 80s or 90s, and if we had cameras, privacy was a big thing. They wouldn't dare to implement cameras on every place, and they tighten up bills of right. The loss of civil rights is increasing. The loss of privacy is increasing. You're an open book to your state, and that is caused by the destabilization of societies, because it's they always argue with, yeah, we need to do it because we want to fight the crime, but the crime is actually homemade. So before you can set up a society, you have to tear it down. Before you build a new house, you on a ground where an old house is, you have to tear down the old house in order to build a new one. And this is what's happening right now. I think they wait for the collapse, and then they set up a new system. What would you do to make people less able to defend themselves? Think back to the 50s, 60s, maybe 70s, 80s. Boys grew up as men and girls grew up as women. And it was like the classical, they were put in classical roles. And what you take away today is the manhood. You have to excuse yourself to be a man. You have to excuse yourself if you love a biologic women. So they take away the manhood, and this results in and people who were very weak, let me say, in terms of defense themselves. Imagine a 17-year-old has to go to the army compared to a 17-year-old from the 80s. So there are often, this is still a running gag about the new generations are always complaining and are not able to do things right. And I don't think everybody is like that, but you can see tendencies that that creates this image. So I think society is less defensive than before. It's divided. So if you want to conquer a land, you have to get rid of the man, and you have to get rid of the unified people. They have wars within the country, so they're much easier to conquer. And it's kind of difficult to explain for me in English, so but I think you get it. I think the idea is to set up a new system, and what's funny is there is only one person from, I would say, the wealthy people who stands out. And I'm not sure if it was planned or it's an alibi character for them. But who stands out is Elon Musk. He's fighting everything that is spread by in these agendas. Therefore, I would rather go with Elon Musk. He looks sometimes, he looks like crazy and stuff. But if you are surrounded by people, if you are that wealthy, you are surrounded by a lot of people, and I think it's very natural that you lose the contact to Earth. So for us, he seems to act. Sometimes he seems to act crazy, but at the end, I think he's a very normal person, and he's the only one I can think of who is standing against all this mainstream agenda, like climate change and gender policies and all that stuff that is spread. So if we come to climate change, it's something that is spread by the colorful circle I was talking about, and it took the agenda was taken up by a lot of people and who were responsible to rule a country. And if you look closely to the leaders of those countries in Europe or Northern America and Australia and New Zealand, and you will find people who came out of nowhere. Before, usually you got a history of a political life, but a lot of leaders are like freshmen. They are completely blank. They get into the highest political positions without any experience or without any education or qualification for it. You got people in highest position in many countries, and you are wondering, why is that? Because organizations like those I was talking about implement these people with money, and they push an agenda. And I personally don't think politicians, no, it doesn't matter if you take them from far right to far left, if you take them from the conservative to liberals or Democrats, Republicans, or in Europe, left, right, middle, center, I think they're all liars. They're all puppets and who are dancing on strings of these organizations and don't even think that Joe Biden was ruling or governing the United States. There are people in the back room who are pushing buttons. So, and don't even think that Trump is ruling America or he's the president, of course. And you have to think you are living in a democracy, like people in Europe think they live in a democracy. And as long as they have their movie streams and their online with their cell phone, they're satisfied. And cell phones have become a huge part of what was used in the Eastern Europe, like with vodka. So they make you drunk. Cell phones make you drunk. If you see people who get arrested, or if you look closely on events where a lot of people are gathering and celebrating something, they all have a cell phone in their hand and they're all taking photos and movies of anything they get in front of their camera lenses or cell phone lenses. It's ridiculous. I always wonder how we could survive in the 70s and 80s as kids. How could we survive in the 80s? We didn't have any cell phone, and I see myself when I leave the house, I'm always looking in my pockets to have my cell phone with me, because what happens if my car breaks down, or if something happens with a family member? We had in the 80s and 70s, we had the same problem, but it never was a problem. It became a problem, and people are so addicted, and they so much depend on this device. I think if we got a full disclosure, even if we tell them, hey, they're hybrids in your government, and for example, and if we have proof of it, and they would tear down their masks and you would see them as they really are, like in the Kurt Russell, I think it was Kurt Russell with the sunglasses. I don't know the English title for the movie. Maybe you can write it down in the link below in the comments. And I don't remember the name, but even if you do that, I think it doesn't have an impact on mainstreamers. With mainstreamers, I mean people who are following public television and the mainstream media news. And if you think it's bad here or it's bad in the United States, don't even look to Germany. So I think the amount of people who think UFOs are real are increasing, but there is still a very small amount, and a lot of people don't want to talk about, and they would not admit that they believe in UFOs because they are afraid of being ridiculed. And yeah, even if the Trump UFO release is something that an eye opener, I will tell you what will be released in a moment. I think it wouldn't have an impact on the mainstreamers. We got a confirmation of that, of what we were thinking all the time, and it gives us the confirmation we are right, or we were right all the time. But for the mainstreamers, as long as they can stream their latest movies and have Wi-Fi and all that stuff on their cell phone, they will probably put it up on the news for a week or two, and then it's over. So back to normal. And yeah, the Trump release. Don't expect it to be the end of the disclosure process. Don't expect it to be the end of it, because it won't be the end of it. There will be there's new stuff, and a lot of stuff you haven't seen before, or many haven't seen before. There are images, stills, and I don't know if there are videos, but there are also files from the CIA and DNI. And there is one image, and I don't know if it's a still image or a video that hasn't been started. There's one image in particular. I was wondering why they would release it. There are about 50 different files and photos they gonna release, but there is one photo maybe one video or photo, I don't know, because it was a still when I saw it. There's one photo in particular that shows a how can I explain it? It shows a craft in a military hangar, and it's obvious that this craft is not man-made, and it's not matching a shape that is familiar for us within the group of aircrafts. Let me explain it this way. If they release it, they have to explain a lot of stuff, because this is an object not caught in midair. It's caught in obviously a military hangar. It's standing on the ground, and it's obviously examined, because there is something like a small ladder, or there are steps in front of it. And if they release that photo, they have to explain a lot of stuff. Either it is a reversed engineered craft, so they have to admit they're able to reproduce flying objects that doesn't match the typical flying object with wings and stuff like that. Or they have to admit they're in possession of crafts that are not man-made. So I wonder if they really publish this image. There are also images from NASA, and I think it's NASA. So we will say, oh, it's good stuff. It's good content, but I think it won't shake the world. I think a lot of newspapers and magazines, the press will take it and make more of it. Some will investigate more deeply into it, and but it will end after a while. So don't expect a big step forward in the disclosure process, because it won't be a big step. It's a step forward, and it's the first president who does it. And I'm not sure if it's I think the time it is released, it's not a coincidence. And I won't tell why I think that. You probably can imagine for yourself. What we know about the agenda is what we were talking about the destabilization of societies, and we gonna fight global warming. And you are not allowed to speak against global warming, against the effect of global warming. You see, a lot of serious scientists, I know a lot of scientists in Europe who said, okay, we got a global warming, but it's not very outstanding in parameters. Like, we don't have a very warm period, and we don't have a lot of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. If you look back in the history of the Earth, there have always been an up and down in global warming, and dryers, for example, cold periods where it was colder. So who has an interest to cool down Earth, to block sunlight, to block the sunlight to reach the Earth, because it's getting more intense? And if you're not blind, you will notice we have a global warming. There is a global warming. The winters are not that strong like 20 or 30 years ago, and you have to admit there is a global warming. But why That's the question. You're not allowed to question if the climate change agenda that is spread throughout all mainstream medias is a evident based agenda. If you challenge that, you are, as a scientist, even as an experienced scientist, you lose probably everything. You lose your reputation and maybe your work, and if you're not follow the agenda. So, who has an interest to cool down Earth? If you think about how many different races are on Earth, then you have to come, or if you think back how many different races are described by abductees and eyewitnesses, you have to come to the conclusion there is more than one, even more than three, and even more than 5 or 6. There are so many different shapes of NHI that there is not only one NHI. There's probably a whole bunch. And I think my theory, and that's a theory, is not based on anything, on research, and my theory is that we have one particular race that has lived here for a very long time, and one after the other race or species came to this planet probably thousands of years ago for a long time, and they look for something. I think the essence is that a lot of species or entities are kind of religious. We would interpret it as religious. I wrote in the book Xeno Empire about it, and I think there is, on the other side, there is a species, or there are groups of one species that is tightly bound to governments all over the world and back in human history: Egypt, Sumerian, Babylonian, Mesoamerica, Asia. They are very tightly bound to ancient governments, kingdoms, and to rule the earth in their sense. So maybe climate change is something they need to create a climate they can live in. If we think of a special species that is more or less active at night, has no melanin in their skin, they are pure white, and probably have problems facing sunlight. They have a huge interest, and they would have a huge interest to to make this world a little bit colder, and the sun, to block the sun from more intense rays. I wrote about, it was, I think it's from March. I've published a result on a viewing that is called the next pandemic. And the next pandemic will occur in within the next 5 years. By the way, what you see next to me is a video that was taken. It's raw material that was taken while we were summoning UFOs. That what you see right now in the back is not a UFO. It's it's a street and there were cars running from left to right. But there is also a UAP in the back. And let me pull this over here. There's always also a UAP. What you see right there is there are houses and street lights and stuff like that. There are people. That was a live summoning with people standing around, and here you can see the object that appeared. It had like 5. It was only, you could only see it in infrared, and it had like 5 lights underneath. First it was like this, and then it went like that, and it disappeared. So you could only see it when you when infrared was turned on. So okay, where was I? Let me look. Okay, the next pandemic. Let me pull up a. Okay. Okay, it's a remote viewing about a scenario that will probably take place within the next 5 years, and it will have a new pandemic. There will be a new pandemic that will paralyze your digesting system. Let me find the okay, I can. Okay. This report details the finding of a remote viewing session conducted by Ezekiel Vacuo on March 30th, 2026. Session focused on identifying and assessing potential threats to global human population. The information received paints a concerning picture of a planned release of a modified virus with the intent to trigger a pandemic leading to significant population reduction and subsequent financial opportunities related to vaccination and hygiene protocols. Due to the sensitive nature of the data, including the identification of individuals involved, this report is classified and requires restricted access. Then we go, okay, the findings. Key trigger and individuals involved. A prominent public figure known for their commentary on vaccines issues appears to be a critical element within this scenario. The viewing involved an apparent dialogue between this public figure and two molecular biologists, suggesting collaboration or knowledge transfer related to the planned event. Specific names were observed during the session and are documented in the classified appendix. Global scale planning. The remote viewing suggests a coordinate plan operating at a global level, mirroring aspects of previous pandemic events such as SARS-CoV-2, but with distinct characteristics. This plan involves the intentional release of genetically modified virus of a genetically modified virus. Vector and transmission. The virus is projected to be initially dismissed via mosquito vectors. Following initial infection, human-to-human transmission will occur through droplet and contact routes. Unique viral impact, paralysis of the digestive system, unlike SARS-CoV-2, which primarily affects the respiratory system. This novel virus targets the digestive system. While treatable in principle, the treatment requires significant medical resources and expertise. The viewing indicates a high mortality rate due to inadequate access to necessary care, significantly higher than the observed during the pandemic. Symptoms will include paralysis of digestive organs, leading to vomit, convulsion, and fever. So this virus will paralyze your digestive system, and it will potentially have a high mortality rate. So then there was a scientific examination of this viewing. I can link this in the description. There are what is a paralytic ileus, key feature symptoms: distended, tense abdomen, absence of bowel sounds and auscultation, complete cessation of stool and flatus passage, nausea and repeated vomiting, abdominal pain and discomfort. What it causes, the diagnosis, the treatment management, why this condition is so serious, severe abdominal distension, sepsis from bacterial translocation across a damaged intestinal barrier, and respiratory compromise due to diaphragmatic elevation from bloating. So I will link these two articles in the description, so you have a look. It's pretty long, the scientific examination, and yeah, this will probably occur within the next 5 years, and this is probably belongs to an agenda. And I mentioned before, so this is something you have to have in mind. Nothing happens for no reason. Nothing is coincidentally. I think there is always a pattern. There's always a written book. We have to act like climate change. They put stuff in the atmosphere. I remember back when, like 10 years ago, when someone told me, hey, they put stuff in the atmosphere. It was like 15 years. They put stuff in the atmosphere. I think, yes, of course they do. And they will put up stuff in the atmosphere. And yes, of course. So that was my opinion. But in between, I'm absolutely convinced, and this is no longer a theory. It's evident because governments have signed bills for to not allow to spread these chemicals in the air above their land, but it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense where you release it. It will reach any place on Earth. It depends on the concentration in the atmosphere, and it doesn't make sense if you spread it in the air above your territory or not. It will reach you, and yeah, it's it belongs to the strategy people, or the entities, I would say entities, that govern our governments and who writes the book of humanity and human existence. And they decide who will survive and who not. And don't be afraid. I tell you, don't be afraid of meteors on impacting on Earth. They will never be a threat. They have a conclusion in their draws for such an event. Never be afraid that a meteor will hit Earth and it will extinct the life on Earth. If they want, they can. They have the abilities to set a new course, or for this meteor or comet, or asteroid or whatever. Don't think they don't have that ability. They have it. And yeah, I don't know how long I was talking today. Let me see if I can pull it up. Is it over an hour? Oh yeah, it's 1 hour and 20 minutes. So it's much shorter than I thought. And yeah, this is that was a deep dive into that topic that bothers me the most, and that is very intense to discuss, because there are so many opinions crash onto it, different opinions crash onto it. And as I said, it's nothing politically, nothing political. It's I just want to stay neutral, and I want to see my point, or state my point of view. And yeah, I hope you enjoyed it, and hope to see you next time. Bye bye.